can we access our future lives?
People think that the past is a fixed place, and it is not. In fact, it's fluid, and you can move it around. We can impact both future and our past by how deep we want to go down the rabbit hole of the mystical connection with the conscious universe. If we are going to co-create a different future, we are as equally accountable and responsible for what has already happened. But you have to face it, but not live in it.
Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever wanted a glimpse into the future and how to create the most crazy, beautiful life you could possibly ever desire, then do we have the Past Lives, Future Miracles show for you. Today I'll be talking with Colette Baron-Reid, psychic, intuitive, and the co-host of an amazing new program, Past Lives, Future Miracles, plus a brand new podcast, Inside the Wooniverse, a podcast brought to you at the corner of Fringe and Maine. And that's just what I want to talk with her about today, about future live regressions and how we can access the future, blast past blocks, and bring miracles into our lives. That plus you'll want to stay tuned till the end for a Remembering Your Future Life meditation with Ruru the Rooster, of course. So welcome back to the show, Collette. Are you ready to shine?
I am ready. Yes, indeed. And it's so nice to be back on your show, Michael.
And it is so great to have you here, Mighty. Woohoo!
And congratulations on your best-selling book. How fantastic is that? Let's see it.
Thank you. There we go. The automatic writing experience.
And wow, it's so exciting. I'm getting it. I'm totally going to order it as soon as I get home.
Yay. And it's a practice. We discussed off air all of the good stuff or great stuff going on in our lives. All of it came about by diving in and communicating with spirit on a daily basis. I can take co-creative credit for anything, but everything came about by diving into spirit.
I believe that. That's what I do too. Every single thing in my life comes from exactly the same way. The only difference is I do it with oracle cards on a daily basis. I have my own practice. Yes, spirit animal. Yes, that's one of my best decks, which I love so much. Dedicated to my dad, who taught me about animism. Anyway, yeah. So I agree with you. It's all about spirit. It's all about our partnership with spirit.
So let's go there today and let's talk about the future in spirit. But before we dive right into things, did you used to pour Jell-O over your head as a kid, and why?
I can't believe you brought that up. Did I write that in my first book? I can't believe you remembered that. Okay, Jell-O and creamed spinach.
Very nice.
When I heard about this. So when I was a little kid in the high chair, like I was like not even a toddler. I don't think I could walk. So I giggled all the time. And when my mom would turn her back, there was actually 3 food groups that I thought were hats. Okay. One of them was Jell-O. Okay. So yes.
Which to me makes perfect sense.
Yes. Very pretty, sparkly colors, right? So yes, I would take the bowl of Jell-O and it always had, my mother would always put condensed milk in the Jell-O also. Okay. So it wasn't just ever plain Jell-O. It was Jell-O with condensed milk, no less. So it was, wiggly, watery. And she would walk away and I would take the bowl and plop it on my head. That was, yes, I did that. I did it with spaghetti, right? I did it with spaghetti. I did it with creamed spinach. And I also did that with porridge.
Here's what's really interesting. And we've got baby Hannah on her way. And I'm going, oh boy, will she hear this? Of course she'll hear this. But here's what I understand, is that even at that early age, you could read, see, know into the future. And that's what we're talking about here today. So you got a kick, if I understand correctly, of knowing what your mom was going to say to you after you put it on your head before she said it.
Well, it was funny because it was always it was in hindsight because I was very, very young, right? But I do remember that in hindsight, looking back at it, there was like a pattern, and I would always know in advance what was coming. So my gurgling and excited behavior was all about the fact that I was right. because I'd be clapping. My mom said I would clap, when she would turn around and the expletive or whatever it was that she would say, I would clap. So, yeah, it was pretty funny. So yeah, I always had, I would say, the premonitory sense of what was next was just my natural state of being. So time, and I know today time to be a continuum. I talked about it being like a layer cake, and as opposed like layers of time, dimensional time, as opposed to linear time. So, you know,
I'm going to pause you there because this is how I teach it. It may be the same way. I teach it as a stack. Is time as a stack, and you can go to whatever part of that stack, you're calling it layer of the cake, that you desire.
yeah, it's a stack. It's time is stacked. So the way I describe it and the way I've seen it is that it's a stack of transparencies. We look at it like that. So imagine that as opposed to a line that we typically think go from left, which, the Western mind looks at the left as behind, the right. Going to the right means going forward, right? When we see it on a piece of paper, that we usually do that, right? And it's a line. But the way I see it is that there are hundreds of, it could be thousands of transparencies. Like, you have tracing paper, right? And imagine that it's a little translucent. So you have an entire storyline on each layer, each like of the stack, if you will, and they go one on top of the other. And if you look down from the top of the stack, imagine that the stack is like you're looking actually at a square. We're going to pretend it's a square, and you look at it. You're not looking at the top. If you look correctly at it, you see the commonalities, right, of all these different lives that are and potentialities and things that have happened in different dimensional consciousness, right, and how they line up, which is why past lives make sense. That was the way I could describe past lives for myself and for people. I mean, I actually, I'm not the teacher of the past life part of the regression. The weekend is Denise Lynn is, and she's a real expert on that. Although I taught it when I was younger, it was something that was just one thing that I was interested in. I did rebirthing and things like that way back in the 80s when I started doing this work.
I'm giggling like a schoolboy. Does a schoolboy giggle? I don't know. So I've got a list of questions in front of me, and I want to dive through all these questions. But some of them are color-coded differently than others. There are questions in light blue that are important. And lists. There are questions in purple. There are questions in yellow that I said, I'm not sure I can ask her these because I'm not sure how far down she's gone down the rabbit hole of time and parallel realities and alternate futures. But I get to go there with you. We get to do the dance.
Go there. This is my jam.
Because time is where I like to play, in the non-reality of time, in this crystalline universe where there are all of these potentialities, and what occurred in the past helps affect which potentiality we bring about. But we can choose.
You can also rewrite the past. People think that the past is a fixed place, and it is not. The perception of it may be fixed for a moment, but in fact, it's fluid, so, and you can move it around. If you, for example, shift the way you view the stories today, and you have, say, for example, this deep mystical forgiveness that occurs to you from a particular pattern that you might see through each of those transparencies. And I'm going to call it a stack like you call it, just for you, right? But for me, it's like the layer cake of time. Then all of a sudden it changes. You've healed something now, and those things no longer are necessarily as sharp or as, you just don't see it the same way. For like, say you saw yourself abused by somebody, and then eventually you start to understand yourself and them better. Then you have a deep forgiveness, and you no longer look at yourself as a victim or them as a perpetrator. That changes everything, right? So then the whole story changes, but the past also changes. So we can impact both future and our past by our how deep we want to go down the rabbit hole of the mystical connection with the conscious universe, which I call the conscious universe, where the guides live, where angels and spirit guides and whatever, and rather than personify them too, because I know we always like to have something that we are comfortable with, but there's all these different layers of consciousness too. that impact us and engage with us depending on where we go.
It's interesting. So I'm going to play with the personification for a minute. We have a trauma, let's say, and it's interesting because you talk about how your traumas are actually often the gift that gives you, awakens your sixth sense, awakens that intuition within you. So if we have a trauma in the past, which has now put us in a state of a role of victimhood, I am a victim because of my trauma, and we keep singing that story, which is why people have said, be careful of singing the story of Rue being abandoned on your show, because then he's living that story again. But if you sing that story, then there are angels, guides, whomever, energy, helping you to sing that story into your future. If, however, you go back and write a different story, sing a different song, begin to heal those wounds, they get by your side and help you sing at a higher octave moving forward as well.
I really like that you said that, because I do think it's really crucial for us to be responsible for our past and how we perceive it. If we are going to co-create a different future, we are as equally accountable and responsible for what has already happened and our vision and understanding of that, right? So I think that's where the healing, that's why I've done EMDR work. I had quite a bit of trauma in my 20s that I went and got a licensed therapist to help me relive so that I could desensitize myself from the trigger, so that when something similar occurred, I no longer got into fight, flight, freeze, fawn, attach, and all the behaviors that make me want to redo it. But there is something else too, that we are really interesting machines. Our soul comes in and animates this machine, but the machine has something in it called the reticular activating system of the brain. And it also takes our eyeballs and looks specifically for evidence that that victimhood is still real. It's going to look for, that's a perpetrator right there. Let's make friends with them, and you are wondering like, well, how did I do this again? Who does this remind me of? What's happening? Because we've continued to sing the story. We've continued to repeat that. So I think it takes discipline, and it takes commitment, though. And people are scared. A lot of people are scared to go back. We're seeing it everywhere in the world right now, and we are really only responsible for ourselves, but we only need a very small percentage of the population to do this, like the imaginal cells of a butterfly, in order to transform the whole.
Let's go there, because we have, this won't be so evergreen, I hope, in this sense, but we have Russia and the Ukraine doing quite the dance. I am of origin Russian and Ukrainian Jew. So it is literally in my beingness, and I started having nightmares before things took place of me lost in the forest between the two borders. And so what takes place globally takes place within us as well. And that to me is a reliving of a wound over there that gets to be healed by the collective. Like you're saying, we get a certain percentage together where we have healed. And I believe sort of like dominoes, one going to the next, we then heal that wound and rise to a higher octave.
In response to the comment about being evergreen, this is always going to be pertinent for people. And my mom, this is a really interesting thing, and you'll probably have to make this not child friendly, this conversation. But my mom was gang raped by Russian soldiers in front of her father, in front of her adopted father, right after the occupation of Berlin, because she was from Berlin. My grandfather was killed in Dachau. He was part of the French resistance movement. He was also Jewish, right? My actual grandfather, her father. And then when I was 19, I wasn't Russian soldiers, but it was a group of a gang situation where I was raped too. Same age as my mother. She was 19 and then I was 19. So having these stories now in the press about women being systematically raped, in like Bucha and all these different places, brought up a lot of stuff for me again. Thankfully, I'd already done a lot of EMDR around it, but I realized, isn't this interesting? So here we are again, having this opportunity for us to take a look at our humanity. for everybody. And this is still going to be pertinent a year from now as it is today. So it is personal to you and I. My dad was Serbian, and the Serbs are supporting Putin. And I'm like, oh, I didn't want to be Serbian when the Bosnian War happened. I was like, I don't want to be that. And then again, now I'm like, ugh. But I realized not all Serbians are for this war. My father he would never have supported this, So I don't want to throw my own heritage out. I'm full Slav. I am Slav all the way. Polish on my mom, even though she was from Germany. So in us is an opportunity right now for everybody to take a look at how this mirrors the divisions that we have fostered now for the past few years. The suspicion that has occurred during the pandemic, the polarization, with politics. It's like, here we have another one, a worse one, a one that could possibly bring us World War III.
Where I want to leap then is I want to take it to this empowered place so we can go and work on healing the past. And clearly this has brought up stuff for both of us, and I'm so sorry, but what you are gifted with is the gift.
Yes, and it's amazing.
And so I want to take that, but I also believe that our gift is a looking glass where we can project into the future the desired outcome. Really what we're doing is we're choosing from the Rolodex of the future which one we want. And so we see this going over there. And we can be expletive, or we can go, how do I choose something even better?
That's exactly where I wanted to go with this too, because you can't stay in the chaos. Oh, you can get hypnotized by all the chaos if you wanted. Like I was momentarily, and when I say I was triggered, I'm not triggered right now at all. I'm like, oh, here's the question. What's the desired outcome? And regardless of the evidence that you're seeing now, what can you hold space for? And you have to discipline yourself to hold the space for that and not allow yourself to get hypnotized and seduced by the chaos, because it's a seduction. Division is a seduction, right? So how do you stay right in the both and still fix, love what is unlovable, speak to what is unspeakable, give space for this healing that's coming out of a wound that's been repetitively reopened, because it's an invitation for healing.
Thank you. Now I'm going to keep moving us back toward looking into the future. But before that, something you said was really important, and it hits it at your origin story in particular. It hit a lot of ours, but I'm going to go to the concept of Ram Dass, who uses the term to snuggle up with. And then I'm going to go to, if anybody has watched the news, I put that in quotes, negative worthless stimulation recently. You go
negative worthless stimulation. I love that news.
You go there and you will hit something that hits an addictive quality of negativeness. It feels sickly. It feels awful. But if we are not familiar with it, we get drawn into it.
Oh, I love that you said that, because just acknowledging that is a freedom and a liberation. If you can sit in the observer to recognize that, like I get it. Don't forget too that people are, again, our little machine, the brain is geared to the negative bias because it's part of the instinct for survival. So it's going to trigger something, and the trigger isn't personal. It's just a slight switch. Actually, the word trigger, I have to be honest, it just gets so overused. It's like let's say, press a button.
And we don't need to say trigger with what's going on in other parts of the world right now.
No, yeah, right. Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that's that word, right? But anyhow, that is a very common phrase that everybody understands now. But yeah, so there's a button that gets pushed, and then there's the rabbit hole that you get sucked into, and it is addictive because it brings a feeling state. And that feeling state brings in a sense of power. Why? Because you're right away in the fight and the flight and the freeze and all of those things, which then shuts you down from making those connections to the mystical, the magical, the choice points, and right, which is really the beauty of being here on this planet, is that we do have choices. And we do have choices in the future to say, I want that one.
I want to talk about looking into the future, but with that said, keep on. This is so much fun. I'm going to Schrodinger's cat here. Can't believe I'm going there. So we can go to reticular activation system. We can go to Schrodinger's cat, and we can go to collapsing waves into particles. And when we go to a state of fear, we have collapsed all of these different worlds of beautiful possibility into the exact thing we do not want.
Right? Exactly. We completely bring it into what we don't want because it begets more of itself. Hence why the healing and the joy, and like one of the things that you do that you used to do all the time, because I've been interviewed by you a whole bunch of times.
Woohoo! Oh, I still do it. It's still in there.
You want to live life with a hoo-hoo. You want to be in this. And my husband I'm a Cancer, so I have a tendency to get a little bit of a worry wart once in a while. My husband is in Aries of like, let's just enjoy life. Like, so he'll pull me out because I'm very empathic and whatever too. But, this love, the choice of love and joy and also living both and like, you cannot pretend that's bypassing. You can't pretend that's not there. Okay. Let's be honest. Like the love and light brigade without the shadow doesn't make any sense to me either. So it's like, shadow, we're not saying that's not there. Okay. But we're going to learn how to sit in the center of the hurricane, in the eye of the hurricane, and keep going and watch all the magic that we can do, because the outcome at the other end is that we'll be empowered to help. We'll be empowered to rebuild. We'll be empowered to choose. And we are responsible for that. Those of us who have the privilege to even have this conversation or listen to this conversation should be committed to this.
When you go to build your future and to look into your future, if you have not faced your shadow, this is the snuggle up of Ram Dass. If you don't do that, you haven't done the healing work, and what you will bring about typically is kaboom. There is a difference though, because going to Hebrew school as a kid, I was given book after book on the Holocaust, on this and that, and taught about what happened to my family, even closer to yours, meaning less removed on your side. And they said, if you do not study your past, you are destined to repeat it. However, if you link up with story of victimhood in the past, that's where we're in trouble. You get to snuggle up with to heal it.
That's what Viktor Frankl was all about. When my mother finally told us, because we were raised Christians, I had no idea I had any Jewish blood in me whatsoever. And she was adopted by a Christian family, et cetera. So she hid it. Then when I realized, I was like, I got to start studying about this. But Viktor Frankl was the first content that I was exposed to help me right away recognize that it was so imperative not to, when once victimized, that you don't lock onto it as the story, because you're going to keep repeating it. And Jung, of course, I became very interested in Jung's work. So I think it's hard to do for some people. Again, for me, this is a discipline, but you have to face it, but not live in it.
This brings us perfect full circle, exactly where I want to go. Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, is in Auschwitz, the most horrific or badass, not in a positive way, a concentration camp there was. And he decided and projected into his future and saw into his future projecting back to him, he would write this book on how you make it through this time.
Yes, that's right. He had that vision. He had the vision the whole time, and that actually kept him. That was his picture of hope. So that hope sustained him. You know what else sustained the people that were able to survive the camps was the fact that they had compassion, right? That was the other thing, that it was hope and compassion. And no matter what happened to them, they still held out compassion, even if it was to give a crumb to a rat. You know what I mean? And to just hold the hand of somebody that, that couldn't make it. Those two things, hope that there could be, not with a date stamp on it, because that's not with a date stamp, just knowing that there was purpose. in this.
That compassion's an interesting one, because if I want to attach to a string in the future of the universe, compassion goes beyond an individual. It goes beyond a condition, because I think it was a line from the Dalai Lama talking about monks who had been held by the Chinese when the Chinese came into Tibet. And he said they weren't concerned about being killed or about losing themselves. They were concerned about losing compassion for their captors, because that's when all hope is lost, when you've given up your heart, when you've gone to the dark side.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So this is such an interesting conversation, Michael.
This is really, really fun. Let's jump in. Can anybody link to their future selves? I do a lot of exercises with my mystics, and I'm having them write from their future selves. Can anybody
I do the same thing.
Link? We've got it going on. There's a program to make between the two of us, just putting it out there.
Yeah, my Oracle school does the same thing. Yeah, okay.
So do we all have the ability to hop the tracks and jump to our future self and begin to see the future or learn from our future?
Yes, I think we can. I know we can. You have to be willing to do it, and you have to know how you want to feel. That's the other thing. And then once, for me, and I'll just tell you my version of this, because I don't believe it's an intellectual exercise. When you can, I have gotten glimpses of it anyway. So without any, but I always do this through meditation, which is what I'm going to be doing on the event. When you go into that deep meditative state and you cast the feeling state, it's like you send it out and then you see what's there. And oftentimes and typically what I do is we see there's usually three parallel realities that are similar. It's kind of like the bronze, silver, and gold version.
I'm feeling very Olympic today.
Olympic, exactly. And, and the feeling state. But I will say this, the work is, yes, you can see it. Then who do you need to become in order to live that? And that's the question that I ask people in my school, right? In Oracle school, is like, who do you need to become in order to live this life that you can see or that you can feel? Because it always has to start with feeling, because you can intellectually see something and make up a story, but if you don't feel it and you're not, it's like rehearsing it. It's like rehearsing the experience. It'll just be a picture.
How do we go to our gold medal future self and ask her or him for assistance with getting into that feeling state, so you can link up both sides of the veil, the here and now and the there?
That's very funny that you brought that up, because that's actually part of the exercise is you meet the future self that has already experienced it, not the future self from that time. It's one, if you remember your future, you remember your future. The sense is a memory, like what happened 5 years from now, by the 7 year, the self that's 7 years from now.
Well, this takes Collette. We'll call it Collette maybe 201 or version 2.0. So when we first had you on the show, I flew with Balfour over a wall, over a...
I took you through the envision process. That's right.
Over a block, which is like, that block is sort of like the Great Wall of China from one side to the other. This is, in a sense, what you're doing is you're flying beyond the I can't possibly have that, flying to the other side where that's already taken place. That's old school news. And then talking to your future self and saying, so how'd that take place?
Yes, it's already there. It's already there. Yeah, it exists. And then you get a chance to find out, well, how did I get here? How did you get here? And then there's a conversation and I think that this, again, I don't know if you would call it the same thing, the automatic writing, but for me, once people are in that state, to write that down, when you're in that kind of neither here nor there state, extraordinary stuff can come with your hand, not with typing. I'm very adamant that it's handwriting. So it's the hand to the paper where all of a sudden you start to get epiphanies and ideas. And then it's almost like forensics, right? But the beauty is, well, the beauty and the most important piece is non-attachment, right? Because you can have a picture of something that you're only seeing an iconic image, that it's really an icon of the event as opposed to the exact event. And sometimes it's the exact event, but that you might have put too much emphasis on. It was only one blink during the whole story. So there's some pitfalls for doing this too. This isn't right. You have to go in there with complete and absolute abandon and surrender to whatever will be.
So let's go there and let's help people cultivate this, because we are both a projector and a receiver and a projector receiver. There's a feedback loop going on here. So if we want to project into the future, and what you're saying is what I teach as well, we want to project a feeling state because the details are really none of our business.
That's right.
How do we practice?
We were twins.
Could be. How do we uncouple from the state of limitation so we can have a big enough, grand enough sensation of what is possible? This is why the prayer that I started this with, for our highest good and the highest good of all, or something even better, seems so appropriate.
I'll be honest. Sometimes you get stuck there, like you're like a fly that got stuck in a spider's web. And that's the shadow. So that's a huge question you ask. How do we uncouple? Because often you'll bump up against that. If you don't know the terrain, that's the work. Otherwise, everybody would be able to do it, and it'd be like nothing. The point is that you start to recognize what strings are holding you. And that's why I really loved your prayer, because you called the angels in. I ask for guidance. I say, relieve me of the bondage of self, so that I may better do thy will. Let there be light. Show me the way. It's never like, let me get whatever I want. It's like, help me let go of me, right? Relieve me of this bondage, because the egoic mind, the self that is wounded, that identifies with stories that are very limited, right? Remember, we're memory-based creatures. Everything that we know right now is based on a memory of something we've already experienced. So we're asking ourselves to go beyond what we know already, beyond our comfort zone, beyond everything, into the unknown. So it's really about practicing being in this unknowable place, and yet projecting, like you said, projecting the feeling state, and then it bounces. It's almost like it bounces off one of those transparencies, right? And shows it back to us. We project it, receive it, and then we have to do the work, because it can be taken from us. We're back in that comfort zone of the ego mind, where it's like, oh, I'm a victim, and I'm going to watch the news. I better look out there to find out how I am. When there is no evidence in our current reality, in physical reality, that tells the truth about where we are.
The closest we can come to me is synchronicities that give evidence that there's something more. So as you were saying that, I'm having a Twilight Zone moment. Please forgive me, because I'm taking your information in, and here's my line of thinking. I take your information in about not being able to see what we can't see beyond. I call that the event horizon. We don't know beyond the event horizon just how grand we are, how great we are. And I go back to the movie What the Bleep, produced by Betsy Chasse years ago, and about the tall ships coming in, and they couldn't see them. Betsy Chasse is coming out to film me for a documentary next week. And so I'm having a do, because when I watched What the Bleep, I had no idea beyond the event horizon what was even possible for me. And you just nailed that. I'm like, wow, we have no idea. So the best that we can do is get out. I'm moving to the side. Get out of our own way.
Get out of our own way. Exactly. And that's why, like, I believe everything that I have in my life today, I mean, certainly is my sobriety, but the spiritual practices that I was given in my early recovery of alcoholism. I'm 36 years clean and sober, and I've like a day at a time, I have kept that program close to my heart. And if I don't have a conscious contact to my higher power on a daily basis, and I don't believe that spirit is my primary reality, then I'm in trouble. So I have no problem knowing that I don't know how to see those tall ships of my life. I don't know. Like I bet you this is the same thing when you met Jessica. Like I met my husband. Both of us had types, physical types that weren't each other, right? I'll be honest. Like both of us were looking for different people, but we didn't know what this incredible life would be, right? We had an idea of what we thought we wanted, right? Like me too with my music career. I only thought that would be the only thing that would be the vehicle for me to do the work that I was here to do. I had no clue this is going to happen, right? So, and it's better than I could have created, better. And it's created opportunities for me to really do my shadow work. Because every time I up level and I go to this new level of experience, I have to take a look at the thing that I didn't work on or I didn't do. I left behind or I've denied or I avoided, right? And I want to keep moving away the debris. I don't want anything that could stand between me and the miracle. And that's really my job. And I think that's everybody's job. Just keep clearing the clutter, and know that the ship will eventually make sense. The tall ship will show up closer to you so you'll know you can see it.
Thank you. So many directions I can go with this. And I had a list of who and what I wanted before I met Jessica. And I said that every single day. I said those prayers before sleep. But it included the or something even better. And, if I'm meant to be a monk in Japan or whatever, that's fine too. When I met her, and she came into a Buddhist meditation center, and I was almost the only person in there. And she scurried to the other side because there's this long-haired, hippie-looking cyclist in there in cycling gear and long hair. And she's like, I'm going to steer far clear. And I opened my eyes and saw her. I didn't have my glasses on. I couldn't tell silhouette maybe. And I'm like, that's her.
Yeah, when I heard my husband's voice, I knew it was him. I knew. I talked to him on the phone. I met him online, but we talked on the phone first. I was like, oh, like I just knew. And I'm like, oh boy, it took him a little while to figure it out. But, it was like, you just know. And that spirit brought you that person that met all the essence of the list, right? It's like he was self-respecting, respected me. He's never said a disrespectful word to me in 20 years. Like, I'm telling you, I'm so fortunate. He's very lucky too. He's in the room.
Here's the thing, and I did ask on my list because some of the things were there, some of the things weren't. It was the or something better. I did ask for someone who would help me to be even more I'm capable of, which means I got the teacher version of a partner. I'm sure you did as well. So I meet Jessica, and I'm terrified to say anything because my history suggests I will mess things up. So I trusted in the universe and I didn't say a darn thing. I let the universe guide me rather than me trying to step forward.
I did the same thing. I did the exact same thing. And that's the synchronicities, right? When you get yourself out of your way. I used to say my picker was broken. Like my belly button picker was like so broken. What I wanted, what I liked, very bad. Right. So I remember surrendering. I got on my knees and said, you pick them. Yeah, because I obviously can't. I'm like, not going to do this, right? And then I'm like, oh, mind you, he was so gorgeous. He was so pretty. I mean, he was way too good looking for me. That was the other thing. He was like, he had his modeling pictures and whatever. I'm like, oh, forget it. This guy. I thought, now every day I look at him, I go, wow, I've got this handsome man who's nice and funny and great and my best friend.
So it's a key point. You may not have done all of the healing or the shadow work yet, but you stepped out of the way to let spirit guide you rather than your wounds guide you.
Correct. And that's an interesting piece too, because when we do that, that's a great formula. It's a great formula for anything, because what happened was I was safe enough with my husband to be safe enough to actually go to the wounds, to heal, because they weren't as big. That was the other thing. Once I stepped into this new way of being, I was able to meet myself in different ways. And relationships are with all kinds of people. It doesn't have to be a lover, but our relationships are where we learn, is where we reflect ourselves. It's such a relationship to the world. So, I felt safer because of course a lot of my wounds came up right away. Like, okay, hi, oh, I'm perfect. And now I'm not. Okay. Just letting you know.
I told Jessica that I had healed everything from the past. And she's like, danger. I will not date him. I will not date him. I will not date him.
Denial, man. Denial, man. That's very funny. Yeah, and listen, I'll be honest. I'm going to be what? What, how old am I? I'm going to be 63 or 64. I'll be 64 in July. Whoa. Don't I look good? Never mind. I've got great genes. Yeah, and I think now I'm doing the best shadow work of my life now at this age because I'm looking at this juicy crone years that I'm in, and I'm like, I am gonna do it. I am gonna get in there and like find it and dig it out and live a life I'm proud of and that I'm good with, and it's good. It's all really good, right? And the shadow's key because the more shadow work you do, the more your dreams come true.
Thank you. So I want to do a few things here, and then we'll get to a meditation. First off, I'm wondering if you can tell us about future life regressions. Then I want to do a couple quick readings with cards, progressions, excuse me. What is a future life progression?
So I'll relate it to the event that I'm doing on Saturday, April 20th. Is it April 23rd? Yes, at noon. So past life regression is about when you go into that layer cake or that what you call your stack, and you're able to see stories, right, that are vivid, that come up spontaneously through the meditation that can trigger spontaneous healing, epiphanies, understandings, and entertainment.
Yes, I can remember the life where I got spear through the leg and off the horse and died, and that's the watermark that I have as a birthmark now, is where I got speared.
Right? Yeah. Oh no, it's very cool. I know. I can tell you a million stories about that. But a future life progression is something that I learned just 30 years ago, actually. When I studied rebirthing, and it's funny, I used to teach all these things that are super new now that weren't new at all 30 years ago. So I was like, oh, I should go back to my old repertoire and start teaching some of these things that I taught 30 years ago.
But you're at a higher level. You've spun around the mountain. You are at a completely different understanding of things now.
I do. I really do. And I do think, so the progression exercise is when it's a very similar state. And what I wanted to do was get people in that state already from the regression so that they're already in that deep meditative receptive state. And then I lead them through the guidance of projecting the feeling state and seeing what bounces back. So it's like you're looking at a black screen, right? That it's all blacked out. And all of a sudden, the stuff that's already there, the light goes on, but you'll get flickering lights on these different dimensional realities and possibilities for you. Then it gives you an opportunity to then make changes or tweaks or whatever. But it's fascinating. I mean, I got a glimpse of so many things that have happened in my life. Like, doing a future progression years ago, I had seen myself on a stage, very specific stage. In Toronto, it's called Massey Hall. Massey Hall is the best. If you're a singer, you want to, like, that is the height of your career if you could sing at Massey Hall, okay? Like you're in a band or whatever, all the best bands go to Massey Hall. And unbeknownst to me, so I saw myself with a microphone there, and I was only pursuing music. And then a few years ago, Hay House did an event at Massey Hall, and there I was in front of thousands of people with a microphone in my hand. Okay? So it was like, I saw that, and my husband had done a progression before he met me, and he actually saw a vision of me, curvy, short me on a beach, laughing and happy while he was only dating tall, skinny, blonde models like Heidi Klum. Okay. He was like, then she says, "This is your wife." Like it was, and he's like, "That can't be my wife." And of course, one day when we were on a beach somewhere, it was like we'd only been together a couple of years. He goes, "Oh my God," because he saw the same freeze frame with me laughing, little short, dark-haired me.
I love it. Can we go? If we have a meditation on a daily basis, can we start? And I know we're going to do something fun at the end. Can we step ourselves down into that state to begin to look through the looking glass and look at our future?
100% you can do that. But it's a discipline. If you don't do it, you're not going to see it. So it's like people have to be disciplined to do the actual meditation, to go do that. So every day you can rehearse. It's a rehearsal. So you're rehearsing a feeling state that then you surrender to the universe. And you will get glimpses of things like, and what's interesting is sometimes you can try to force it and your body is like, no, no, no.
When I first learned a version of automatic writing, I was learning how to communicate. It was a program that I took with a woman by the name of Sien Chow, brilliant woman who does past life regressions. She's in, I think, Perth, Australia. And it was a class on learning how to communicate with the Akashic Masters and the Akashic Records. And on the last day of this class, you go into this automatic writing. You go into a meditative state and you do this process like automatic writing, and you communicate with the Akashic Masters. And they said that I would be speaking up on high on a mountain before thousands and thousands of people, and I would teach and I would broadcast, and I basically was horrified because I had to read it back before the class. I was horrified and embarrassed that my ego had taken over and that it was total bunk.
Meanwhile, look.
And it kept coming up until I finally said, I get it. And that's when I really dove into automatic writing and started to try to understand, why do I keep getting this story that's coming to me from the future? And I surrendered into something much greater, still unfolding, early stages of unfolding for you and I, much greater than I ever could have imagined.
I get it. I've done the same thing. I get it. Just different sources, same tools, exactly. Automatic writing when you do it with your hand, and you just see what comes up in that language. You're talking to the Akashic Masters. In my case, you're talking to your future self. So
and now the automatic writing that I teach now is you can go to anybody. You can go to your future self. You can go to your parents or grandparents or elders or whomever you want. Would you mind doing a reading with us? Actually, a reading for everybody, and then a reading for Jessica and myself with the cards, because the cards, I want you to talk about the cards for a brief minute.
Always ask me to do that, is give you guys a reading. I think sometimes that's your agenda to get me on your show. Let's do a reading
in the past, Collette, I would say so. At this point, everything is so up in the air. We don't know where we're moving. We don't know. We know we're renting 2 houses because we get to be close to the hospital in a couple of weeks because she needs surgery. So we are just totally surrendered. Let's do the reading. But before we do that, key point. Can't we use, and I love your deck. This is why I'm traveling with your deck. I love you, Collette. Can't we use cards to help us? I'm going to call it open that third eye, vision into the future, and hear back from the future.
That's why I do that, right? So, because you can use oracle cards, because remember, oracle cards are reflections. And I love that you love spirit animal, because Slavic folklore is steeped in animism. And so spirit animal actually is a representation, even though I decided to put animals in there from other continents, because I'm not going to just do it. But my dad, it was all the Slavic folklore, which is why I did that deck, because he taught me how to read Turkish coffee cups when I was a kid. And so, of course, spirit animal has been a language that I've known forever. So anyway, I'm glad you use that. So yes, oracle cards enable us. They're a navigation system that enable us to communicate with or reflect upon. We just have to know what question to ask. So you can ask basically anything, because as long as you know that you're asking spirit to give you information for the highest good. That's it. That's all you need to know. It's very simple. Now, I create divination systems, different than, how do I put this? So some oracle card decks are just oracle cards where they take a card and it gives you a message for the day or whatever. Mine are actual systems that are meant to work together, right? So each one is its independent system. So with that in mind, let's do whatever it is that you want to do.
So I would like you to do a reading. Do you have cards with you? If not, we can use my cards. But if you have cards, we can do that.
I've got cards, but I just don't have those cards.
Okay. Well, I'm going to. So
if you want to use those cards, you have to pick the cards.
I'm asking you to pick. So what I'm doing here, is you're not seeing on camera, is I'm muscle testing. and the muscle testing says you play. And I'm along for the ride.
Okay, so I'm going to play with another deck, or you want that?
Let's play. Okay, we're going to do 2 readings. We're going to do a reading for everybody here. Let's do that with your deck. And then we'll do a reading for Jessica, myself, and baby Hannah. We can do that with the Spirit Animal Oracle, because it's got our energy imprinted all over it.
All right, so let's do a general reading. Now, what is the question that you want to have answered? I'll let you pick that. What do we want your audience to reflect on? How about how do we get to a more unified future?
Perfect.
Right? With compassionate prosperity at its core.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah, I know how to ask these questions. Okay, so I'm going to pick, Spirit's giving me a little nudge that we're going to pick 3 cards. Shaman's Dream Oracle, one of the best decks that I've created with Alberto Villaldo, based on this shaman archetype, not shamanism. The first deck I did with him was to help them do their deck, him and his wife, on Andean shamanism. I'm not a shaman, but I am a Jungian. So this is based on the Jungian archetypes.
And I believe we have him coming back on the show shortly. We've had him on several times before. We do not have Carl Jung unless we did him from the other side.
Exactly. So these are really the archetypal experience of the shaman, which is going deep and bringing back through an initiation and bringing back a gift. Okay, so let's take a look and see. How do we all do this? Okay. Oh, this is great. Okay, so today's point of vantage, right? Because I'm reading it from today's point of vantage for everybody that's here. So the center card is Unmarked Trail. I'm just going to show this to you. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's
how close can you hold that to the camera?
How close can I hold it to the camera?
Okay, hold that for a sec. There it is. It comes into focus. Very, very good. Yep, got it.
Perfect. Okay, good. That's about revelation in the unknown. So the unknowable reveals itself to us through synchronicity. We just have to know, again, the feeling. What kind of feeling do we think now? And not to think about, well, how's that ever going to happen? Right? Don't worry about that. That's not our job. It's none of our business. It's mostly, can you hold the space for compassion, love, and hope? And also, when I say compassion and prosperity, we want good things for all people. Right? So that's like good things for all people and the reduction of suffering in the world. That's very key, right? So just that's a big, what would that feel like if we knew that that was possible and that was there? That's our first thing. The revelation comes through adaptability. So adaptability is card number 64, Woodwives. Okay. So the oracle tells us that resilience, adaptability to changing outer conditions, which are never fixed. We're always a story in motion, right? And everything is based on the stories in motion. Everything remains fluid and in motion. And trusting that fortune's wheel, luck and right timing.
Bing! There we go.
Okay. So that's a card about being in the right place at the right time that we can't plan for, but we can know that we are all here now at the right place and the right time, in spite of the changing circumstances, in spite of feeling powerless and out of control and all those things. We are actually in the right time and space right now to hold space for that true vision, because it is not only possible, it becomes a probability. The more of us that hold space for that vision.
Here's what I've been getting. We chose from wherever in the multiverse, not even in the universe, we queued up to come here at this time. Out of all of the infinite number, beyond trillions and trillions of souls, we're the lucky ones who got to come here to help usher us through this time period. The people listening to you, the people listening to me are empaths. We're extra sensitive to help guide us. And so we feel everything's all wrong when actually, in a very weird, twisted way, it's all right. And our feeling state is helping guide us forward.
And we need to manage our feeling state too. We have to know what our boundaries are. There are certain criteria for empaths that are really crucial in order for us to actually manage this, because it's very easy to want to run away. I believe I feel exactly the same as you. We were born for this time. We were meant to be here at this time. And we are meant to foster our dreams, our personal dreams too. Because it's like if our success at being able to tune into this and bring more of that feeling state to the world, right? Because our feelings are contagious, right? A feeling state of joy, trust, hope, miraculous, awe. Actually, the name of your book is Awe, right? That reverence and awe is contagious. And so fostering that and not looking for our certainty in outer conditions is what's being required of us now in order to have this. So yeah, we have everything that we need. And it's okay that once in a while we're going to fall asleep at the wheel and we'll have spiritual narcolepsy that will last a few hours a day, But yeah, and I think the other thing is too is that every human being is afraid of dying. Well, the ego is afraid of dying, right? And we think death is like the biggest, most horrible thing that could happen. Truth is, we're immortal. We're in whatever work that we're meant to do here for whatever time it is beautiful. We have to make sure that when every single morning when I wake up, I know that I have lived my best life. Even if I've screwed up and I need to make amends or I have to do things, I want to know that this day that I have is the greatest gift that I could possibly have, and it's my job to do the best with it.
I would not be doing the best job I can do with it if I don't ask, how do you do that? Because that is the greatest fear, perhaps, of many people listening today is I am off path, I am off track, I am not doing, being, or living how I am supposed to.
That's when you hold hands with God, right? That's where you surrender to the divine. That's where you say, help me. That's where humility comes in. That's where we honor our humanity and the little small self that we have. And we need more compassion and self-love at that point too, because we will go off track. That is going to happen. That's part of the deal. We are going to have a detour. We are. And we're never going to be on track 100% all the time. Like there could be some people that are, that'd be great. I'm not. I will say honestly, I mess up. I got to fix it. I got to do whatever. I've got to learn. So just be in it. Be in it. No, be in the mess. Full catastrophe living is what John Kabat-Zinn calls it, right? The full catastrophe living. Just be with all of it, and get out of your judgment.
One of my all-time favorite, this shows a little bit of twisted humor in here, all-time favorite quotes is, the beatings will continue until morale improves.
Until morale improves.
You get to live in the mud and choose until you choose that I'm not living in the mud. And only then does it begin to change. But while you're in the mud, don't pick on yourself for being in the mud.
And you get out of the mud faster. Like you might only slid in it. You might just put your toe in it one day. We used to be before you'd stay in a vat of it, right? It's improvement. It's a constant. So for me, that's what the discipline piece is. The discipline is not discipline, right? Is the discipline of commitment to continuous fostering of my primary relationship with his spirit first, everything second. Spirit first, everything second. That's how I feel about things. And that doesn't mean that we don't get to play in the material world. We do. We wouldn't be here if we didn't.
To me, that's a spiritual practice, and it's the oxygen mask on yourself. This is where I believe people get confused. If there's a pull and a tug on your heart, and you go, well, that's selfish of me to do that. It did not start with you. That is a cosmic string, a silver string between you and the universe, between you and your higher self on the other side saying, do this. Don't ignore it.
Yeah. And then sometimes that string you think is calling you is your ego because you want something that you'll eventually learn isn't for you anyway. And you have a lesson there.
So then would you mind doing a reading for us? I stutter when it gets to myself. Reading.
Yes. Pull a couple cards.
Okay. So do you want me to ask a question or just pull a couple cards? And there's a couple 2 cards, there's a couple 3 cards. What would you like here?
I want you to ask a question and give me 2 cards.
I can't believe I'm going to go there. The most basic question of all of which I already know the answer, but I'm going to go there anyway. Is baby Hannah going to be all right?
Okay, we're not answering that question. Yes, she is. Okay.
All right, let's go with another question.
What does Spirit need us to know to be in our highest good for the next few months?
Amen to that.
How's that? Okay. Yeah.
All right, and pull 2 cards.
Yeah. Because we don't, and there's some things, especially that when you have an attachment to it, we're not meant to know those things. But ask the question that's going to give you the best answer.
All right, I've got my 2 cards here.
Okay.
And I have, I'm giggling. That's interesting. We have
Oh, bee spirit. Of course you do. Finally, sweet results await after a lot. A lot. You've got honey there. You've made honey. Oh,
you
yeah.
can't fake them. You just can't make this stuff
Oh
up.
my God. I love the mouse spirit. Tend to the small things and stop asking so many big questions. It's tending to the small things instead of looking at the big existential questions. But, this is a sweet time for you and Jessica. And don't wait for the other shoe to drop is the other one.
So, oh, we were doing well till then. What do you mean? Other shoe.
Don't wait for the other shoe to drop. Like, don't wait for something bad to happen. Like, don't go, oh boy, something bad better not happen. It won't. Like, you're right. Don't wait. Your closet already fell down twice. All of the shoes already came out. Now it's nicely stacked.
It's interesting. I hope I'm not really picking on my heritage too much, and then I'll go get Rue here for a meditation. Actually, first we got to steer everybody to your events and such. But we put out on one of our events and put on our website, if people really wanted to, they could come to our baby registry a few months ago. At which point my mom wrote me and said, as a card-carrying Jew, we don't do baby registries because if you give gifts before the baby's born, then the baby may not come about.
Oh, BS. That's like cancel. Are you a card-carrying Jew? Are you a card-carrying Jew?
I am not in anything.
You're a
I am
spiritual.
spirit.
You're like, there you go. So forget
And
it. You spiritual people have baby registries. The end.
what you bring about, what you think about, what you focus on.
Yeah, comes about.
Yes. So, all right.
Yeah, take that. Those kind of curses don't exist in my world.
And that's actually, I had to read about it, and it is actually a curse.
It's a curse. That's why I said curse, because it's a curse. I know curse. Curse when I hear a curse.
All right. On that note, where can people go to find this amazing program, to find your decks, to find everything that's going on, Collette?
Okay. Well, I'm super excited to share.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to have some giant arrows going on that will point down below at the top pinned comments and in the description that will have the link right there for you.
I'm telling you something. Denise Lynn is wild. She is incredible.
We have her coming on our show in a few weeks.
Oh, you do? That's fantastic. So she's of Cherokee heritage. She is a past life regression specialist. She's taught just recently in my mastermind. I have a small group mastermind of 20 people that I take through an 8-month course called Dream Quest. She blew everybody's minds. She's a dear friend of mine as well, too. So we decided, well, actually didn't just decide. She had a past life experience where she saw that she and I had a covenant to go do this for people. So it's going to be at noon on April the 23rd. It's online. And it's very inexpensive. I think it's like, $49, Mark? Super inexpensive. So it's a 3-hour event, and prepare to have your minds blown. So there's that. And you're going to want to check out my membership site. That's cbrlove.com. The Oracle Circle membership is amazing. It's like my favorite thing. I do Spirit Jam twice a month. I do readings for 90 minutes. So if you want another reading, Michael, you just come to the LCM.
To cbrlove.com.
cbrlove.com. Exactly. So come check that out as well. So it's time to meet the rooster. Yes.
Any last words of wisdoms before I go? Wisdoms. I can speak now.
Any wisdoms? I think we've talked a lot about wisdoms, but I think now more than ever, we need to develop more of a certainty in the mystical, because it's been proven that the certainty of life as we know it is changing all the time. So really getting in sync with the mystical elements of our life, especially learning oracle cards, like learning what are your mystical tools? You have your school, I have my school, we have events and etc. for people to come, because now is the time in all of our history. It's time for us. You have to learn how to trust your intuition. And a lot of people don't know how to do that because it's been trained out of us. So whoever you like as a teacher, could be me, could be Michael, could be anybody, just do it. Because now is the time your certainty will come from the hidden realms. It will not come from what you see.
I like it. All right. I'm going to go get Rue so we can have a future life meditation.
I was going to say the turkey. I have like so many giant wild turkeys on my property. I actually feed them. So
very good. So last fall, we're in the RV. We're by Jessica's parents' house, and I'm hanging out outside on the grass. Rue is, hanging out next to me. All of a sudden, he starts to move just off to the side a little bit. Not a big deal. He hangs out next to me, and then he bolts. There's a wild turkey in the next yard over. And you see this bird that's twice his size. And Rue is running after the bird. And the turkey is running, thankfully, because I don't know what would happen. And here are the three of us running through this Jersey neighborhood in a line. Turkey led by Rooster, led by me.
Let me see him. All
right,
I can
hold on.
Oh, hi, Rue. Rue.
This is... Oh, that was my lens falling out of the glass. Oh, well.
Beautiful. He's beautiful. Oh, I'm in love. Look at how he leans on you, Mark. I want a rooster. Hi, little Roo. Oh. Oh, he knows.
Yes.
Hi. So is he going to do that in a meditation?
He probably
Does he chase
will not, but I will put it on mute.
That's okay.
He is energetically so much more sensitive than even you or I. So he sees emotions. I don't know how it works. So if I have a thought on one side of the house and he's on the other side of the thought, and it's not a pure thought, he will start crowing because his job is to protect us. And so he's watching our emotions. He's watching our thoughts.
Oh, that's so interesting. But I'm sending him loving thoughts and telling him how beautiful he is. Maybe he's crowing because he knows he's a handsome boy.
Oh, he does. And it is not just a warning sound. It's a sound of celebration as well.
And I'd like everybody to take a deep breath. Deep breath in. Let's get grounded. We're going to drop an anchor. We are going to drop an anchor from the base of our spine. It's very tiny. We're going to see it like a small glowing globe, but it actually weighs hundreds and hundreds of pounds. It's going to go deep into the center of the earth. And you're going to feel the weight of your body. Make sure your feet are shoulder length apart and you're comfortable sitting in a chair. And I invite you to, we're actually going to do a different kind of meditation right now. Given the energy of our rooster friend, I think this is a more appropriate one. I'm going to teach you how to do a chi ball. So we know, all of us right here in this meditation, the state of being, we want to call in the power of love, the power of hope, the power of unity, and the power of compassionate prosperity. And we want to project that as a feeling state on the screen of our potential future, where all things are possible. So just quickly, I'd like you to take your hands, and you can have your eyes half open for this. So you might want to take a look at where my hands are. They're this apart. And you're going to hold them this way until you feel. You might want to do this first. You're going to bring them together. And then you're going to feel a ball of energy inside them. You can do this with 2 hands, or better than 1, yes. 2 hands and a rooster. What can we do? So you want to cup your hands around this ball. And you want to project into the ball those feelings. What does it feel like to have hope? If you're not feeling, we're going to take a break from the feeling state that you have from other things. If you're worried, if you're anxious, if you're empathic or whatever, we're going to take a break from that. We're going to say, thanks for sharing. We're coming in. We're just now imagining what hope would be like. Now, bringing hope with love. Imagine holding a rooster that loves you. Imagine holding a puppy that loves you. Imagine holding a newborn baby that you love. You love these incredible beings. Remember love. You have a memory of this. And keep your hands, and you'll notice that the ball of light will start growing as you'll push, your hands will get pushed out a little bit. Just keep pulsing it and you'll start to feel the tingling. And let's put compassionate prosperity in this ball. What does that like to you? What would that mean? Well, that would mean that what your purpose is, and you don't need to know what it is. You don't need to know the details because it's already built into you. You don't have to look for it outside of yourself. It's in you. You are your purpose. Maybe your purpose today is just to smile at a stranger who you don't know how that one moment could have changed that person's life. Your presence in this world is purpose. But compassionate prosperity is the evidence of your work here on earth, your service that ends up helping other people be more. Maybe that smile makes that person trust more. Who knows? We don't know. We just know that we have a power, and that power can heal and can change the world, one smile at a time. Maybe you're about to start something new, a new project, and you want to imagine all the people it's going to help, because that's the point. The outcome, how does that help? Maybe it's just finding a rooster on the road and giving them the best life they could possibly ever had, including making them famous. You know what it is. This is just a feeling. So now the ball is starting to tingle in your hands. And we are going to specifically gift this energy to whoever needs it that isn't you right now. We're going to blow it into the world, and you'll see it on this dark screen like you're in a theater, and all of a sudden you're getting a glimpse of something amazing, that you've actually made people feel better. So at the count of 3, we're going to blow this into the world. 1, 2, 3. And I bet you your hands have been tingling.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You feel that energy. And so it is.
Woo!
And so, yeah, we didn't do Get on Your Bird because of the bird. I could feel him like going, oh, no. I want to talk. I want you to pay attention to me. And I thought, nah, I don't think we're going to get on our bird. We're going to do this.
You can hear him then. You can hear him. He knows he's a star, and he knows. He was quiet the whole meditation, mind you.
Bet he was. I bet he was. He's a beautiful little soul. But that's just something that you can do if you ever really need to get grounded. It's a great grounding meditation where you just feel the pulse, and your hands actually, it's a chi ball. It's a qigong exercise that is a meditation that you can do anytime. And it gets you super focused, just so focused on the feeling state that you want to manifest for yourself. Because you can't focus on 2 things at once. You can't be worried and also hopeful with the chi ball in your hand, right? So it's a really great way to shift out of any difficult mindset.
Thank you. Before I let you go, there's one more thing I've got to ask about. Where can people go to listen to Inside the Wooniverse?
Yes, itwpodcast.com. That's itwpodcast.com. Wherever podcasts exist, it's on Spotify, it's on Apple Podcasts, it's on Snitch. No, what's that? Stitch? It's on Snitch. It's on the Snitch channel. Yeah, it's on whenever there's a podcast possible. It's on Amazon. It's on basically anywhere it says podcast, you will find Inside the Wooniverse. And we have been consistently in the top 20 around the world now since we launched. So I'm very proud of it.
Awesome. This has been so much fun, Colette. thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, my pleasure. And we'll be seeing you inside the Wooniverse too.
Woohoo! So for everyone out there, this is Michael and Rue at this point saying be well, have fun, get and check out Inside the Wooniverse yourself today, and do dive in inside your own Wooniverse today, and above and beyond all else, shine bright. Woohoo! What an amazing talk on seeing your future self, learning from your future self, and healing those past wounds all in one with Colette Baron-Reid. What a special interview. On that note, if you want to connect with Spirit, as we were talking about, first off, of course, there are her card decks, but you can get the automatic writing experience. In fact, you can get our whole video-based program with live classes with me at automaticwriting.com and learn how to communicate with yourself on the other side of the veil, with your elders, with your guides, with your angels. Automaticwriting.com to check out more behind the scenes goodness, teachings, meditations, special events with me. Click the join button down below, become a Mystic Circle member, and of course, become the mystic you were always meant to be at our School of Mystics. It's InspireNationUniversity.com, 4 classes every month to help you become the mystic you were meant to be. Of course, we're a podcast as well, so you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and everywhere you ingest your favorite podcast. Big thumbs up if you like this. Click the subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified of upcoming shows, YouTube premieres, live events with me every Monday night. Here's a link to the next amazing video. Love you guys so, so much. Keep on shining bright. Woohoo! How does it get any better than this, Rue? How does it get any better than this? Love you guys. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.